शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अथाश्वलायनो भगवन्तं परमेष्ठिनमुपसमेत्योवाच अधीहि भगवन् ब्रह्मविद्यां वरिष्ठां सदा सद्भिः सेव्यमानां निगूढाम् यया चिरात् सर्वपापं व्यपोह्य परात् परं पुरुषं याति विद्वान् तस्मै स होवाच पितामहश्च श्रद्धा भक्तिध्यानयोगादवैः न कर्मणा न प्रजया धनेन त्यागेनैके अमृतत्वमानशुः परेण नाकं निहितं गुहायां विभ्राजते यद्यतयो विशन्ति वेदान्तविज्ञानसुनिश्चितार्थाः सन्न्यासयोगाद्यतयः शुद्धसत्त्वाः ते ब्रह्मलोकेषु परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ति सर्वे विविक्तदेशे च सुखासनस्थः शुचिः समग्रीव शिरः शरीरः अत्याश्रमस्थः सकलेन्द्रियाणि निरुध्य भक्त्या स्वगुरुं प्रणम्य हृत्पुण्डरीकं विरजं विशुद्धं विचिन्त्य मध्ये विशदं विशोकम् अचिन्त्यमव्यक्तमनन्तरूपं शिवं प्रशान्तममृतं ब्रह्मयोनिम् तथादिमध्यान्तविहीनमेकं विभुं चिदानन्दमरूपमद्भुतम् उमासहायं परमेश्वरं प्रभुं त्रिलोचनं नीलकण्ठं प्रशान्तम् ध्यात्वा मुनिर्गच्छति भूतयोनिं समस्तसाक्षिं तमसः परस्तात् स ब्रह्मा स शिवः सेन्द्रः सोऽक्षरः परमस्वराट् स एव विष्णुः स प्राणः स कालोऽग्निः स चन्द्रमाः स एव सर्वं यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यं सनातनम् ज्ञात्वा तं मृत्युमत्येति नान्यः पन्था विमुक्तये सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि सम्पश्यन् ब्रह्म परमं याति नान्येन हेतुना।
The Upanishads form the highest thought known to mankind. Upanishads deal with the transcendental reality or the self. There is nothing less than that. But as we study the Upanishads here, we have to remember that however much we try, the truth cannot be explained. This has to be reiterated to ourselves time and again. All the explanations given by the masters, it is trying to make us aware or wake us up. It is by going shoulder to shoulder with the master, walking along the path of the truth, can we reach the very source or the origin. Otherwise it becomes a very a intellectual understanding, which is also required, but we have to always remember that the aim of the Upanishad is to awaken us. It has to get us to that state of enlightenment. It is not merely to understand at the intellectual level. Though all sources of Brahma Vidya is for that, but Upanishad being the main source of this knowledge, and its only aim is that. That is why you will find that in the Upanishads as we study, it doesn't deal with anything in what we may call as practical. In fact, an ideal way even for a group like this is that we get out of the rut of the city and maybe go 3-4 days somewhere to just have, I don't know what you call it, can be a retreat or something, where we cover a particular Upanishad and come. That is a better way than to do a weekly class. But this is what we have got and we have to make the best use of it. But you have to always imagine as you study the Upanishad how it was imparted thousands of years ago. And then you will be able to imagine not just the power of the knowledge, but the earnestness and the devotion of the student and the seeker, and the greatness of the master who gives out this knowledge. You have to imagine that probably the Himalayan setting where this class is transacted. You have to imagine the greatness of the student who is a well-prepared student who reaches the master for this knowledge. And you have to always imagine a liberated soul, a enlightened person, just being there all by himself, probably waiting for the right student only. Waiting not in the sense of yearning. He is just there all by himself, independent. And when a right student approaches, he is overwhelmed with a compassion to assist the student and he gives out the knowledge. This frequency must be always retained while studying, because it is not just you go by word to word meaning and try to understand. Of course, it is all there, very subtle knowledge and those things are there. But the whole spirit of the knowledge of the Upanishad must never be forgotten as we study the Upanishad. Now, we said in the beginning when we started the Kena Upanishad that there are 286 odd Upanishads, and anybody even now can sort of write a Upanishad. There is no hard and fast rule that you cannot. It is said that even during the time of Akbar, he was when the study of Upanishads and other things was explained in the court, he was so impressed by it that he wanted the scholars to compose Upanishad on Allah, it seems. I'm not very sure of the story, but there is a story like this. So, anybody can write and give it a title of Upanishads. Nobody has a power or anything to stop, and that is not the way our religion also follows. There is no maxims or mandates or any particular authority who can say this has to be done or not to be done. But traditionally, out of this, 108 is considered very orthodox. It has been celebrated over a period of time that these are sort of authentic of them. And after 108, 11 are considered very powerful. It is not that any other Upanishad is any less. These 11, in fact, it is 10. They say in a way Dashopanishad, plus the 11th one is the Shvetashvatra Upanishad. These have given more prominence and weightage because Acharyas of great caliber like Adi Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, etc., they have commented and brought out the truths. See, there is a Upanishad called, I think, Muktika Upanishad. Muktika Upanishad says, if you are courting only Mandukya Upanishad, that is more than enough. It says Mandukya Upanishad's glory is given in Muktika Upanishad. And Mandukya Upanishad is probably the shortest of all Upanishads. Just 12 mantras. And probably that deals with the highest. If you compare with reference to the subtlety, the waking dream and deep sleep and beyond which what is the Supreme Brahman and the illusory nature of this world is given directly in Mandukya Upanishad, and that is just 12 mantras. If you follow the Chinmaya mission, they have given a course of study, probably given by Swami Chinmayananda himself. It starts with their smaller books like Kindle Life, Art of Self-Management, various lectures of Swami Chinmayananda ji, etc. Then it comes to Bhagavad Gita, and then he gives Upanishad, and what order these Upanishads also has to be studied. Finally, he gives Mandukya Upanishad, and he also says what Upanishads has to be studied and revised so many times. And finally, at the end, he says Mandukya Upanishad, keep on reading. There's no end to that. That sort of a power is what is given to Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad cannot be studied except without what is known as a Karika written by the great Gaudapada. Gaudapada is the Parama Guru of Adi Shankaracharya. Karika is not exactly a commentary. It is like a treatise, you can say, taking out the essence of it and explaining it further in various prakaranas. So 100 odd verses are written as Karika, without which this Mandukya Upanishad cannot be understood. Now, if you say that Mandukya Upanishad, that alone is enough. What else is required? Like that one, they have selected this 10. That's about all. It is not to exclude some other Upanishad for any reason or anything. Just as you can say one Upanishad is enough, the Acharyas thought 10 Upanishads is enough. So, Dasha Upanishad and Shvetashvatra Upanishad is also oft quoted by Adi Shankaracharya in the commentary of Brahma Sutra and other Bhashyas. So therefore these 11 are considered very powerful and authentic and oft repeated because of their association with these masters. And so they are probably taken up, explained again and again throughout the period of time. Of the 4 Upanishads that are taught to us in Vedanta Academy, Keno Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad comes under the 10 Upanishads. This Kaivalya Upanishad, Swamiji says, you can say it is the 12th, something like that. It doesn't come under the 10th, but it is just outside it. It is a very short Upanishad, not very short, you can say 25 mantras only totally. And very many subtle concepts are dealt in this Upanishad. And what is interesting about this Upanishad is, it doesn't speak in a very windy language which is very the hallmark of some other Upanishads. It is quite direct statements. Many mantras you will find all the concepts subtle are given for our contemplation reflection, but it is given very, very directly. This Kaivalya Upanishad is derived from the term Kevala. The last 2 Upanishads that we studied, Keno Upanishad and Ishavasya Upanishad, derive their name from the first word of the Upanishad. We don't know who has composed, though some rishis have been attributed, they refer to the Upanishad by the first name, which is Kena. Kene Shitam it starts, so it is called Keno Upanishad. Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam, so it's called either Isha Upanishad or Ishavasya Upanishad. This Upanishad is not named because of the first word. Kevala means that alone. In Hindi also that's the meaning. Keval. So the noun form of Kevala is Kaivalyam. That alone means it is talking about that alone. That alone is Brahman. So Kaivalyam is always referred to as absolute liberation. In absolute liberation, only Brahman is there. Nothing else is there. You have realized that Brahman and Brahman alone is. So that state of that absolute oneness is called as Kaivalyam. So they even talk about liberation as Kaivalya Mukti. Kaivalya Mukti means that liberation where you have absolutely reached there. That alone is there. There is nothing else that is to be thought about, or there is nothing else that is there to be discussed about. So that reaching that alone is called as Kaivalyam. Therefore, this Upanishad is talking directly about that. So it is called as Kaivalya Upanishad. Kaivalya Upanishad is part of Atharvana Veda. The Guru in this Upanishad is Lord Brahma. The Shishya is called as Aashvalaayana. You will find that in every Upanishad there is a Guru and a Shishya. Sometimes they are named, sometimes they are not named. In Kena Upanishad we don't see a name that is given. And all the gods, I think in Mandukya it is Varuna, in some other Upanishad it is Indra. All these are deities which are representative of the Supreme Self. Or you can take it as a person who is an enlightened person who knows the knowledge of the Self. They are the person who are qualified to give Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya or the knowledge of the Self can be imparted only by a self-realized soul. Or put it this way, even if you want to understand it relatively, only to the extent that we have unfolded ourselves can we reveal the knowledge of the Self to that extent. A self-realized master is said to be unfolded 100%. Therefore, what he is communicating, either by his words, by his action, whatever his life is, he is communicating the knowledge of the Self fully, wholly. But the receptivity of the student will depend upon his receptacle. A ocean is there giving out the water fully. You can say, for this example, ocean is infinite in its nature in terms of water. But if you take a cup and go there, you can bring only that much water. If you take a tanker and go that much water, if you take a pitcher and go that much water only you can take. So the receptivity is depending upon the receptacle of the student. But as far as the master is concerned, he is actually opened up and giving out fully. Relatively, if you speak, we are somewhere in between 0 to 100%. Let's say 100% is the enlightened master. So if a person is opened up or attuned to the Self to that extent of 50%, however much he can try, he cannot give the knowledge more than 50%. He can talk about the highest concepts of even illusion and the Self and be very eloquent about it. But communication happens only to the extent of what he has unfolded himself. In other words, what is communication? Communication is what comes from your system and actually hits the other person. That is communication. It is another thing that he must be concentrating enough to receive the knowledge. But what really penetrates the student, what really goes inside the student is coming from the depth of the experience of the person who is speaking there, which is the level of the master. If he is living to life to that extent of his unfoldment, which is 50%, only to that extent the knowledge can come. However, he may try otherwise also. So the whole emphasis of Brahma Vidya is that you open up yourself, you do the tapas, you unfold yourself, go within and search for the Self. At any point of time, you will be able to communicate whatever you have unfolded. The emphasis is again not on giving lecture or pravachan. The formula is that, again as I say, not necessarily through lecture, you will be radiating that knowledge through your life to the extent that you have unfolded yourself. So here, Lord Brahma, none less than Lord Brahma is the Guru. To him, the great student, Aashvalaayana goes, and you will find that like any other student, he is asking the same question about Brahma Vidya. In Upanishad, the question is about Brahma Vidya only, no other thing. We see a distinct difference in Gita when Arjuna questions. Arjuna is, and we are thankful to Arjuna because as though he is representing us and asking the question. What should I do? Should I do action or should I get knowledge? Or what is sannyasa yoga? Should I worship with a form or without form? And even in Gita, you will find that as the chapters proceed, Arjuna's question also gets refined more and more. Very beautiful questions come out later, but in the earlier stages, you see that how he is totally confused. So the Gita shows us also along the path, as we go along the path, what type of doubts come and what type of clarity comes to us at later levels like that. But in all the Upanishads, invariably, with or without question, the knowledge is Brahma Vidya, and if there is a question, you will find that that question is directed towards learning of this. We said in that liberal education that there is a beautiful question, the same thing, it's asked in a different form. in the next Upanishad that we will study, which is Mundaka Upanishad, he says, teach me that knowing which everything else is known. What a beautiful way to ask that question. He is actually asking that supreme knowing principle, which is the base of all knowledge. So, in Kena Upanishad, he is asking question from a different angle. We saw that. He asked that what is it that makes the eyes see, ears hear, mind function, pranas function. So, he is asking the same thing, but in a different angle. Here he is also asking in a different angle, what is Brahma Vidya? This is how the Upanishad begins, and the rest of the Upanishad is a grand discourse by Lord Brahma. And as I said, very many subtle concepts are covered here. You will find Krama Mukti. We talked about Kaivalya. Kaivalya liberation is a direct liberation. But he is talking about liberation in stages, which if you remember we studied in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That comes here. And then there are waking, dream and deep sleep that is discussed in somewhat detail. And you have the theory of creation coming in one verse, which is dealt also in Mundaka Upanishad. So there are various concepts that are given, but you will find mostly direct statements worthy of direct reflection. There is no, like Swamiji says, we have not studied Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya and all, gives out the same thing in a very windy way. You need to be of expert caliber, and you have to go through a teacher who is also very expert in teaching that to probably grasp what they are saying. It is just not the word meaning. You will not be able to relate to what they are saying. Suddenly in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the disciple is asking, and Yajnavalkya is giving the answer one by one. From where did this come? From moon, from sun, like that he says. Then suddenly he says, don't ask next question, your head will be gone, he says suddenly. You will really not understand why he is saying that. It's very direct statement. Your head will be shattered, like that he says. Don't ask the next question. There is, so you only, those great masters who are trained in the lineage of Upanishads and who have gone through the commentary of great masters probably can do that. But in this Upanishad we find mostly direct statements, but deep statements. They are worthy of reflection. This is the summary of Kaivalya Upanishad. Like every other Upanishad, Swamiji has divided this into 5 topics. Totally 25 mantras are there. The Upanishad is divided into 2 parts. The first part has 23 mantras. The second part has 2 mantras. So totally 25 mantras. 25 mantras are divided into 5 topics. First 5, it is there in the book also. You'll find that all are directly related to Brahman only. The first 5 mantras talk about how to gain the knowledge of the Brahman or reality. Next 6 mantras talk about the Brahman in the manifest and unmanifest form. Next 5 mantras talk about realize that thou art. Even in this mantra, a couple of aphorisms, it comes directly in this Upanishad also. So that the word comes here. And the 4th topic talks about I am Brahman, which is from 17 to 21, 5 verses. And the last 4 mantras give us aids to realization. So the last 4 mantras, 2 come in the part 1 and 2 come in the part 2. So it's a very simple Upanishad divided into these 5 topics. And like every Upanishad, this also has got a Shanti part. We will begin with the Shanti part. And this is the Shanti Mantra that we will be chanting for all the classes from now on. And this will continue in the next Upanishad also, because for Mundaka Upanishad also this is the Shanti Mantra. We will begin with the Shanti part.
Bhadram karnebhih shrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistuştuvagusastanoobhih Vyashema devahitam yadayuh Swasti na Indro vruddhashravaha स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Om. May we hear the auspicious with our ears, O gods. May we behold the auspicious with our eyes, O worshipful ones. May we live God-given span of life with firm limbs and bodies, singing your praises. May the traditionally glorified Indra bless us. May the all-knowing Sun bless us. May Vayu, protector from harm, bless us. May Brihaspati bless us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The purpose of Shanti Mantra, as we have covered, is really twofold. The name itself suggests that it is Shanti Mantra, Shanti part. That means it is to give us Shanti, it is to give us peace. So we chant the Shanti Mantra before and sometimes usually after the class also, but here after the class we end it with a Bhajan. When we are running around in the world, when the mind is agitated because of our samsaric concerns, and when we are trying to attune to the highest knowledge of the Brahman through Upanishads, we need to calm our mind as much as possible before we enter the class, or even as we enter the class. That is why the Shanti Mantra is chanted in the beginning by the Guru and the Shishya together. Another reason is that, not another reason, parallelly what happens is that the knowledge that is being transacted here, which is transcendental, it requires the attunement of our subtle intellect. If at all we are using any intellect in the world, it is our gross intellect. Gross intellect is that aspect of our discrimination which deals with the world. But here is a knowledge which is trying to give us the discrimination which is to deal with the transcendental. So it is like shifting gear from terrestrial to transcendental. To shift the gear, we need to press the clutch in the car. So Shanti Mantra acts like that also. So it calms the mind and it subtilizes our intellect to attune it to studies. Not only this class, suppose you go to any class. I am talking about even the classes that you may attend in worldly subjects. You go to a Sanskrit class, or you can even tell your children or whoever is attending school or college, any class that they go to, they must be in the class minimum 5 minutes in advance. 5 minutes, I am just saying, it can be well in advance also. You need to keep your mind calm. Only when the mind is calm can the intellect be attuned to receiving the knowledge. Suppose if a person comes late and he is running here and there and coming and sitting, for him to settle down it will take some time, by which time he might have lost some knowledge. Now, and secondary aspect of it is that he will disturb others. That is not recommended, and why you want to unnecessarily take that karma upon you. That is different. But even from his own point of view, you will not be able to attune quickly into that frequency of the class if the mind is not calm. So you go little early and just calm yourself. And when you say the Shanti Mantra, that is why we have this bhajans before the class. A few bhajans for 15 minutes, 10 minutes we sing. Because that prepares you for the class. It should prepare you for the class. Once the devotion is there and the mind is attuned, it will be able to receive the knowledge much more easily. So Bhagavad Gita has a dhyanam. Every scripture has a dhyanam like that. Even a shloka like Vishnu Sahasranama has a dhyanam. Shantakaram, etc. is given as a dhyanam. So you are able to have that dhyanam or thought about Lord Vishnu in that particular form that is given. And in that way, when you chant the Vishnu Sahasranama, it has got more additional effect. Even mechanically you can chant and it will have effect. But if you want to derive the full benefit of it, you are able to attune yourself before it. So that is the purpose or meaning of the Shanti Mantra. Like every Shanti Mantra, this begins with Om. Om represents the supreme reality. Any mantra begins with Om. In 17th chapter he says that is why all the auspicious acts are also begun by uttering Om. Every mantra, every puja or anything that you do, even normal rituals that you do, when you do even Gayatri Mantra, you will find that this Om is there. Om is probably the complete expression or the subtlest expression of Brahman. The supreme reality is represented by this monosyllable Om. It's a monosyllable, you can't call it word, it is a monosyllable. The sound, Ekaksharam, it says, one akshara only, it's Om. It is chanted, elongated. And we have dealt many times what is the meaning. The Om has both the articulate and inarticulate effect in the sound. Articulate is where the sound or the words have a meaning behind it. Inarticulate is where that sound has a feeling behind it. It creates a impact on you, not necessarily through its meaning, but it touches your heart. The articulate sound touches your head. It is giving something to think about. Om is the most potent and powerful mantra which has both of this. So when a person chants Om, that itself elevates. Not just chant, when you hear that sound that is produced, Om, that itself really elevates us. So the Om represents that supreme Brahman, and that is why it is giving that sort of a feeling. The meaning behind that Om is that Om is understood or split into A, U and Um. When we say this, when we say monosyllable in one time, and then you say it can be split into three, it seems like a contradiction. It is not so. Om is one sound only and it is one syllable only. For the sake of our understanding, according to Sanskrit grammar rules, if you split, it does split into these three sounds, A, U and Um. Om is not derived from A plus U plus M. Om is not derived from A, U, Um. It is a natural sound. But if the great rishis saw that it has a great deal of inner meaning hidden in it, that they brought out by this segregation. See, Om is a natural sound. When we say, when a person chants, when you play a veena, the closest to the human voice is veena. When you strike that chord, what comes actually is close to Om. Listen to veena. Or conch when it is blown. In Bengal they do it in puja times and very many times it is Om. So you can say it is a natural sound. It is a very natural sound, Om. And this Om, when we understand it through this splitting into these three letters, A, U and Um, it gives a phenomenal meaning. A represents the waking state of consciousness. U represents the dream state of consciousness. Represents the deep sleep state of consciousness. Now we may ask, why? How? Anybody remembers? Why is A representing waking state?
It is spoken when the mouth is fully open.
A sound comes, A is the first sound, that is why A is the first sound in any language. It comes out when the mouth is fully open. A, like that it comes. when it is partially open or partially closed, oo comes. And when the mouth is fully closed, what comes out is the sound After that, there is no sound. So, the A represents the waking state when your vasanas are fully manifest, and you can say it is a complete expression of your personality, which is waking. U represents a partial manifestation of your personality, where this physical body doesn't participate, but you are creating your own world and enjoying what is known as dream. Dream is represented by U. And represents deep sleep. Is practically nothing. So deep sleep is practically nothing. Only vasanas or no manifestation of your personality. Unmanifest personality is Om as a sound, you can say, pervades all these three. A, U and So Om represents that supreme reality which pervades the waking, dream and deep sleep. What is very interesting to notice, when we write these three letters in Sanskrit or Hindi is same script as Sanskrit, Devanagari script. A stands solid, isn't it? When you write A here, it is like this. A is standing solid like this. But U is sliding. And though there is a letter, it is usually by this dot. The dot which is placed on that letter, or above that letter. So, a solid seeming waking world is A. A sliding dream world. Dream world is very not very pakka according to the rules, etc. It is sliding. And you find that this U as though is like part of A, isn't it? It is as though like how it is framed, we don't know, but it just happens like this. The dream that we go through, we will see in this Upanishad, it says how the dream is and all created. So, U is representing the dream state, and which is practically nothing, is represented by this. Om as a phenomenon represents the totality. Om represents the entirety of the consciousness which is pervasive in this universe. The Om, but the dynamic silence which is beyond Om, which is the base of it all, represents the supreme reality in its pristine form. So this entire manifest universe, which is nothing but Brahman, arises from that unmanifest reality only and goes back into that unmanifest reality. Like that, this Om sound comes from that and goes back into that. And while it is there, it is still on that only. Like waves is on the ocean, but really speaking, waves is not different from ocean. But when we see a different entity of the wave as a separate entity or individual, then we think that it is different from ocean. Like that, this manifest universe is being seen as different from what is known as Brahman. In effect, it is not so. So this tattva of Om, when you understand in detail, in fact that is enough. There is no more vidya that is required. Om covers the entire thing, and therefore all the mantras start with Om. So for a highest prepared seeker, this Om itself is very elevating. It will probably raise his level of consciousness. So Om is chanted in the beginning of all mantras. And then you find that this Shanti Mantra is directed towards various gods. The aim of this Shanti Mantra is to create a conducive atmosphere internally and externally to attune us towards the study of Brahman. What is inspiring about this mantra is that, again, go back to what I said in the beginning, that you have to imagine that this class of Upanishads was taught in the Himalayas in that setup. Thousands of years back maybe. And there he is saying, may our ears listen to what is auspicious. May our eyes see what is auspicious. See, if we desperately say that prayer now, we can relate some meaning to it. But what is it that they are going to see something inauspicious there? What sound is going to come which is inauspicious there in that setup? Yet, if they are praying like that, we have to understand how much they care about not even an inch of negativity that they must encounter. So that is why I say, more than the meaning of what we are going to study in these mantras, you have to again and again relate to the frequency with which this knowledge was transacted. So the attunement of whole personality towards the self is what is given. So he begins by saying that, may we hear that is auspicious with our ears. Always let this ears hear what is really good, what is really auspicious. Bhadram means what is really auspicious, good. And through the eyes, may we behold what is auspicious. Bhadram Pashyema. Usually in the scriptures, ears and eyes are taken, but it is to be taken in terms of all the sense organs. So, what it means is that through the sense organs, whatever raw material that enters our system, may that all be of very good quality. Go back to what we talked about, the 3R traffic of life. Our life is driven by this constant traffic of receipt of stimuli from the external source, reaction from within, and response back to the world. Receipt of the stimuli from the world is through the sense organs. So you have the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, etc. These are called as jnana indriyas. Jnana indriyas are the organs of knowledge. Indriyas are translated as organs, but deeper inside. So it is through which the knowledge of the world enters you. So they are called jnana indriyas. So if you want to have a quality product of any output, then the check has to be first given at the raw material level. Because what you receive from the world is what is going to react within you, and then that is going to decide the response. Though it is a constant transaction that is happening throughout, like when you have in your own house, let us say, there is a pipe that drains away the water from bathroom to the common drain that is connecting, outside. And for whatever reason, due to flood or something, the water from outside enters through the drain and it is now dirtying the whole place inside your house, inside the bathroom, and it is leaking everywhere. Now everything is over, but you need to clean the system now. So what is the first thing that we do when we want to clean?
Block the remnant.
Sorry?
Unblock the blocking.
Unblock the?
Blocking.
Which blocking?
Whatever. Reduce the level at the outside.
Otherwise the water will see, from the outside it is coming in because of some reason, maybe because the pipe is tilted low or whatever be the reason it is coming. Even as you clean the house properly, and inside the bathroom when you clean properly, if the flow is going to be still there, however much you clean, it is going to dirty it further and further. So the first and foremost thing is to block any additional inflow into our house. So we have to check what is coming at the input level. Once you block that and make sure that is corrected, only then you can do all the preparations inside. So exactly like that, the whole spiritual sadhana starts with what type of stimulus that we take in, and constantly we cannot resist but meet the world and take in stimuli. This is a natural flow of our life. Eyes, you have to open the eyes, right? Except in the period of sleep, when you are opening the eyes, automatically all the sights just go in. Our ears cannot be closed, so sounds just go in. Nose cannot be closed for the sake of breathing, it is there. Smell has to go in. Skin is always exposed. Skin has to contact. Tongue, we have to eat to survive. Therefore, that is also there. So all these 5 senses have to be employed constantly. So they are praying that, oh gods, please make sure that whatever we intake through all these things, let it be conducive for our sadhana. You have to remember again, at the level of the Upanishads, they are at a very high level, and all the thought association associated with what they get from the world must be in the line of reaching the self only. So nothing short of it. And what we don't understand is, even if we say that, okay, you are generally a well-controlled person and you are a disciplined person, but when we slip even through one sense for a while, to get back to your own discipline or schedule, it takes a lot of time. So do not poo-poo or take for granted the power of your senses. In Ramayana, that's why Vali is given very powerful symbolism. I mean, Vali has a boon that he will take away half the power of the opponents when whoever he confronts. Like that is the sense object. Sense object takes away half the power when you confront. See, you can't say that when you have exam, I can watch TV, still I'll try to study. It will not work. The moment the TV is on and the cricket match is on, it will take away half your power. After that, you are sort of a slave to that. You will be dictated terms by that object only. So therefore, Rama hid behind the tree and shot. If you take this story, this is the symbolism you can derive out of it. That you have to attack the sense from withdrawing and then attack it. That is the symbolism that is given. So here so what ideally this prayer refers to is that give us proper satsang at all point of time. This is the prayer that most great people, even renunciates, ask for. When they say it is, you have to understand prayer is not asking for something in terms of beggary as most people do. It is just that their thought is in terms of what is ideal for their realization. So Adi Shankaracharya says in Bhajagovindam, Satsangatve Nisangatvam, the whole schedule or the whole progress starts with satsang. It is by the good karma of past many lives that we even get into satsang. Then through that we will be introduced to that Sadguru who is going to guide us. But the whole process starts with satsang. Satsang is commonly understood as a class like this or a satsang of a bhajan or something where good people are there, or even people of whatever frequency at that point of time their sattvic tendencies are coming. That is called as real satsang. So never leave satsang. This is the general meaning. But you can also extend satsang to have association with all other areas of your contact also. The type of food you eat, that is also must be good. The type of, see nowadays nobody is free from, let us say, interacting with social media, Facebook, Twitter, constantly. When we talk about contact with the sense objects, etc. Now, even if you put off all the lights and when you are in bed through your mobile phone, it is going to come and attack you. You are at no point of time that you are going to be free from this powerful thrust from the world. It is so powerful. And you, for all practical reasons, maybe again, like we say, a realized person is one in a generation or a million. Who is without a mobile phone is like that. One in a, I don't know, 1,000 of person is he without a mobile phone, or who is not having internet, another thing, Facebook, Twitter, everybody is part of it. Maybe the person who founded that Facebook, who's that, Zuckerberg, right? There was a picture showing that he is helping his wife cut the vegetables in the kitchen. He is doing those work. All others are leaving their work and just following the Facebook, and he says this person is not, maybe he's in Facebook, we don't know, but he is doing his duties properly at home. Whether it is a joke or something, they have put it as a picture. So constantly we are there in the Facebook. And if you leave that, what is getting attacking us is through this television, through everything that you go along. It is said that in 1950s, what a person saw as advertisement in his whole lifetime, in less than 10 months of our life, now we see that much advertisements. And all the advertisements are to tantalize our senses, nothing else. So there's constant attack. And not only that, when you talk about, even we say we need to be informed, and you watch news channels and other things, so much of negativity and so much of, chaotic discussions and everything enters us constantly. And all this is not that we are discerning into what is right and wrong in that. It is constant barging, serials or movies or everything for that matter. It is what is entering us is a barge of negativities. So we have to be very, very careful. So as I said, even if you don't have a choice that you are in Facebook or Twitter and those things, be very careful as to who you associate with. That's why I said technology is like a weapon in your hand. You can use it in whatever way you want. Be very careful in associating with the right persons also in that, if you need to. Blessed are those persons who can really do without all those things. Okay, but even if you need to, even if you want to speak in the phone, just be short with that conversation to the extent that it is required. So be very, very careful of what really enters into your system. So the prayer to gods is, since it is the power of the nature that it is entering our system, they are worshipping that power which is behind all this nature, that may our ears hear only what is auspicious. May our eyes see only what is conducive for our growth. May we see only that auspicious. And this is interesting, even in Kena Upanishad it came that they are talking about well-being of the body and the limbs. Thirai rangai stuštuvagum sastanubihi. May we live the God-given span of life with firm limbs and bodies singing your praises. In the Kena Upanishad, the invocation mantra said the same thing. Apyayantu mamangani vak pranas chakshus srotamato balam indriyani cha sarvani. May our eyes, ears, prana, everything be strong, wax strong. May the limbs wax strong, they said. What is the reason? See, we are talking about spirituality here, and spirituality is about attuning the mind and intellect to the self. That is the main purpose. And in fact, we are also emphasized that we must rise above body consciousness. The whole emphasis is that we are attached to this body and we have to rise the body. But invocatory prayer says, may the body be strong. So there is a slight difference between, even in the normal terms, what is body consciousness and health consciousness. Here also he is not praying for good health or anything for any other purpose. Not to be a Mr. Universe or Miss Universe or anything like that. It is to sing your praises, he says. So unless otherwise the body is kept in proper condition, you will not be able to do the sadhana properly. Sharira madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam, says another scripture. I don't know, Bhagavad or something it says. It is only through the body as a vehicle that you can do even what is dharma. So therefore, if you have a car which is necessary, it must be available for you at the right time to go urgently anywhere. It must be therefore kept in proper condition. At any point of time, it must be good enough to take you. To that extent, you maintain that vehicle. Exactly like that. If you want to even sit in a class like this, if constantly there is a back pain or some other pain, we will not be able to concentrate in the class. Even if you want to do some karma, etc., to that extent the body must be alright. So, that is why minimum amount of exercises, yoga, pranayama, etc., they are all recommended. Maybe in the olden days the way of life is such that the body was quite attuned and they were kept in good condition. The modern lifestyle is in such a way that in the comforts of what we undergo, the body is not automatically given proper exercises. Therefore, we need to spend some time to keep the body. So, in other words, you take care of the body for 45 minutes to 1 hour, I don't know, whatever be the time. The body will cooperate with you for the next 23 hours. It will automatically take care of you. That's all it is. And the test again we say is that there must not be any thought about the body. If there is a pain, the thought will come. If there is no pain, the thought about that part will not come. So good body or a right body is not measured in terms of what is the waist size or what is the weight and what is the height. It is in terms of how you are able to completely forget the body. That's all it is. So beyond a point, there is no, again, in the name of this, we should not get into body consciousness. There is the whole purpose of Upanishad is to take away from it. So he says, may it be strong enough. And what is the purpose? He says, in the God-given span of life, that means there is a humility that, we really do not know where we have come from. When we came, we know in terms of when we entered this world. All that is guaranteed is one day we have to go. But when we don't know, the guarantee is that there is a shelf life for this body and it has to go sometime. But when it is, nobody knows. But taking it for granted, we'll say, let us see later, let us see later. Like that we while away the time, what has to be done in the primary business of life. So he says, this is granted to you as a great gift, God given, and that to a human birth like this. You cannot afford to waste it. In this God given lifespan, let us sing your praises. The whole lifetime is spent not wastefully, but it is in terms of attunement towards the gods. So let us sing the praises means let our thoughts, word and deed, everything is attuned towards the glory of the self. And he seeks the blessings of certain gods. Swasti Naha. Swasti Naha means, Swasti means well-being. Naha means us. So grant us well-being for us. That means he is seeking the blessings. First he is certain gods very nicely chosen. It can be symbolically taken as all aspects of the personality. First sense organs is covered. Vayu. Takshya means one who is of swift motion, very fast movement. That's Vayu. He is also called as Arishtanemi. Arishtanemi means one who protects us from harm. It is wind that protects us from all diseases. When you keep all the windows closed all the time, you feel stuffy inside, isn't it? When you open the windows, air comes and it really refreshes us. So he is protector from all harm. So Vayu represents the prana aspect of our personality. So that means may our prana be attuned to it, for which you are invoking the lord of it, which is Vayu. Indra. Indra is the lord of Indriya, which is the lord of senses, which is the mind. So may the mind be attuned to this. So for which you are seeking the blessing of Lord Indra. Pushan. We saw Pushan in Ishavasya Upanishad also. Pushan means sun god, which is, Pushan means nourisher. It is sun which nourishes everything in this world. Vishwavedaha, all knower with reference to whatever is there in the universe. It is through sun that everything gets known. So sun represents actually the gross intellect of your personality, which is like, when you expand that intellect, it knows everything in this world. So Vayu represents the prana, the Indra represents the mind, sun represents the gross intellect, and finally Brihaspati. Brihaspati is the greatest lord. He is the guru of the devas and he represents the subtle intellect. So may the senses, body, prana, mind, intellect, everything be attuned for this only. So it's a fabulous prayer. The prayer, as though seeking a wellness of one being, it's not for oneself, but the whole attunement of the prayer is to move towards the self-knowledge only. So everything is conducive. See, the point is, the Brahma Vidya is to be given by the teacher and you are going to receive it with attunement. For attunement, there has to be removal of obstacles at all levels. So let the obstacles be removed at the level of the senses. Let there not be any pain or anything in the body. So let the obstacles be removed at the physical level. Let there not be any disturbance at the mental or intellectual level. Let the prana, the shakti which joins all these things, let that also be free flowing. In the whole process, my entire personality, I surrender to seeking of the knowledge of the self. That is the invocation here. And like every Shanti Mantra, this also ends with 3 times Shanti. Shanti, the peace is invoked for clearing the obstacles that can be caused at the 3 levels of the universe. It is called as Adi Daivikam, Adi Bhautikam and Adhyatmikam. Adi Daivikam is the disturbance caused at the cosmic level as though by gods. Disturbance like a lightning or thunder, all these are also disturbances. So we say this Shanti aloud that may there be peace at that level, at the cosmic level. Then the middle Shanti is somewhat in a lower tone. This is external disturbance. May there be, probably in the old days when they said that let there not be rain or dampness or insects or various other things that are there. We can say let the traffic be alright, let there be no mobile phones around. These are the disturbances at the extent. Let there be no power shortage. So why all this is not because just we are doing a very, very important thing. That is the conviction. All these Shanti mantras, though with humility it is a prayer, it is not any demand but sort of a command. Let there be peace, because I am doing the most important thing is what the seeker is feeling. So let there not be any disturbance around me at the external level. And finally, Shanti. Internally, in a very whispering tone you say, because other disturbance come from within you. It can be physical troubles or any mental agitations that can cause a disturbance. As we said, if there is a ache in the body, then that will disturb. So may there be peace at all levels. When a person is earnestly seeking to study this with conviction, when he says, actually there will be Shanti. Because it is the intensity with which you desire something, and for a noble purpose like this, that it is going to happen. How this actually desires and all happen, it is beautifully given in the next Upanishad when we study. So therefore the whole idea of the Shanti Mantra is to attune us to the knowledge of the self here. Om, may we hear the auspicious with our ears, O gods. May we behold the auspicious with our eyes, O worshipful ones, Yajatraha, those who are worshipped by Yajna, they are Yajatraha. May we live God-given span of life with firm limbs and bodies, singing your praises. May the traditionally glorified Indra bless us. May the all-knowing Sun bless us. May Vayu, protector from harm, bless us. May Brihaspati bless us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll conclude. Yes, sir.
We saw in the Upanishad, we saw it in the Upanishad, then now here, the invocations are different. Is there any specific reason why can't one invocation do for all?
See, it can be. There are traditionally Pancha Shanti that are given in the Vedas, and usually the codifications of Vedas are into 4 Vedas are done much later. They were all probably in the same corpus, and they were codified and classified into 4 Vedas by Vedavyasa at a different time. And then probably other additions also could have come into all those things later. So you find Upanishads of the same particular Vedas have same Shanti Mantras. So this Poornam Adah Poornamidam is there for Ishavasya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In Taittiriya Upanishad, which is in the Krishna Yajurveda, the invocation is different. For Aitreya Upanishad, which is in Rig Veda, it is different. But for Kena Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad, it's the same, they come in the Sama Veda. And for this and the next, it is the same, it is coming in the Atharvana Veda. So the Shanti Mantras also, which is like you see the same angle from same message from different angle in different Upanishads, which is Brahma Vidya. The same Shanti Mantra is also seen from different angles. That's what it is. So they have done it in groups of what they chant together. So imagine if a person who is a Rigvedi and is doing all those things, he is attuned to a particular Shanti Mantra. Like that it is. Then otherwise there is no specific reason. Yes, sir.
Upanishad forms a part of Vedas. Vedas are called Apurusharya, means it is not compiled by any person. Today when we started the class, you said that nowadays anybody can write a Upanishad. How?
That is why when we write a Upanishad now, it is not going to be a corpus of Vedas. Vedas is what is Vedas, and that is why I said 108 or so what is traditional and considered. That is only considered the authentic. But you can write a Upanishad and say it is Upanishad. That will not automatically, it is not going to be accepted, or people are going to teach it or take it up or something like that. But for you to say that this is Upanishad, nobody can say no also. In that sense I said. But otherwise, it is Apaurushaya, and that is why even all parts of Vedas, the main emphasis is chanting and using it in rituals. Upanishad is something that the master and student take it up for further studies and explanation. But even then, here also we say it is coming out from the master in the state of samadhi or self-absorption. In that side also, this is also Apaurushaya only. So that is why these are all called as traditional Upanishad. See, suppose if, for example, a modern guru is there, and he is also maybe of great height, but he gives out Upanishad. Maybe he will teach, or who is his disciple or somebody, he will take it up and do further. It is not going to be universally taken. But these are the Upanishads which are traditionally taught in all schools of thought, all schools of philosophy. So these form part of the corpus.
But a learned master like Sotri, Brahmanist, whatever we call, he cannot write anything and say this is that is demeaning the Upanishad actually.
But that independence is given to him. It is up to you how you view it. That is up to him. Whether he, however he does it. So that is why I am saying all this will not stand to the test of time if it is not so. See, suppose we say nobody knows of whether Akbar made scholars write Upanishads or not, but we don't have any talking about it or knowing about it. So that will fade away by time by itself. But even after thousands of years, if these Upanishads are standing, they stand to the test of that credibility only. Yes, sir.
When these Upanishads were written, so I don't know, maybe the population of the world was 15 crore, 20 crore, whatever. Today we are 7 billion plus people. Technology has increased, like you said, Facebook, Twitter. So what I'm trying to say is the interaction of mankind has increased. So the input of information that you're getting also deteriorated.
The input of
Information that you're getting, or raw material which you spoke about, it has also deteriorated over time. So my question is, has our ability as mankind, as human beings, also increased in that proportion to absorb that deterioration, or that has remained the same? So we have to improve to that extent to get now enlightenment. But then that becomes a very, very, well, the fact that I could not get enlightenment in maybe Baba Yoga or whatever, but I'm still there, that means I've been there for hundreds of janmas. So when I could not get enlightenment that time, so now getting it becomes more difficult unless my ability also will improve.
See, as far as the enlightenment and the percentage is going, it will operate between a range, high and a low. This applies for all periods of time. It is not that probably even in Upanishad times or something that everybody was enlightened or there is a great percentage or something. The persons who are following but the point is, whoever is not enlightened, there could be a bigger percentage who are following the dharmic way of life in the society. All that is possible. The question about absorbing capacity, it is not that you can say that the quantum has obviously increased, as we said in the technology and other things. Too much of information and too much of this thing, like we get a WhatsApp message and everything is there. So what we are gathering now is more and more information. The capacity to think and reflect over it, that capacity of our intellect within, we cannot say that it has deteriorated, because the capacity of our forefathers we also have, and the next generations and generations further also will have. But obviously what has changed is that attunement of that capacity towards the law of nature, that has changed. In other words, because of too much of information from the world, the discrimination, if at all we use, and thinking and other things is mainly towards the worldly things and worldly activities. So even if a person has to think in terms of how to kill an animal very, very scientifically so that it doesn't produce any unwanted, if a goat is cut in front of other bleeding goats, it produces certain, I don't know what body produces, it is not good for the thing. So they cut it in such a way that it doesn't know, etc. All this is also thinking. So what has crept into our system is based on our selfishness, the thinking capacity and power and the ability to create, everything is totally confined to the realm of the world only. So there is no time or inclination for us to invest in the transcendental. This proportion we can say has comparatively changed, comparatively altered. But the capacity is still there. So if we are able to withdraw our power from here and apply it the same thing here, it is probably that we will progress further.
So can I say, from what you said, that our Viveka has to improve now further?
Yes, it is Viveka, and we are going to see in the next mantra Viveka, which is the real discrimination. That the real discrimination between what is permanent and impermanent. So since our mind is preoccupied in the world, we don't have time or inclination for this. But it is actually that which has to improve. In fact, this time, I'll just say this, that Swamiji's lecture this time here is on Viveka and Vairagya. One of the beautiful topics. See, nowadays, couple of old topics of the Guru Purnima is repeating. In Bangalore, Power of Devotion. In Bombay, what is it? I think Obstacles in Spiritual Path, which was given in 1985. And in Calcutta is giving Viveka and Vairagya. It is the very important thing. So, that is why Jnana that we gain, without that Vairagya, without that dispassion or detachment, it will not take us anywhere. So the sadhana is to integrate knowledge with our practice. That's how it should go. So the capacity in us is there. We have to change it, change the direction towards the sun.
Sir, you said something, sir. Does that mean that from Vivek, Vairagya comes?
It does. We are going to deal with it in detail next class because it is directly coming in this based on one important word. First mantra is very interesting. I'll leave you with this thought. Read the translation of the first mantra, doesn't matter. It says, then Aashvalaayana went to Brahma, etc., etc. Then means what? There must be a continuity. Then only you can say then. But in the Upanishad, starts with the first mantra and he says Atha. Atha means apram. Then Aashvalaayana went to etc. So that word then is a very important word. What that word then means, it's very interesting. We'll take it up in the next class. No permission. We'll conclude with the bhajans here.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.